Hello viewers, thanks for joining us and welcome to the 2018 Don's Trust Elections Candidate Interviews. I'm Kevin Boris. Shortly, you'll be joined by Nick Draper as well. We are from the 9 Years podcast, as you probably know. Candidate number one has joined us already, and it's Rob Crane. Hi, Rob.
Good morning, how are you?
I'm fine, how are you doing, more importantly?
Thank you.
Good, so relax, Rob. It's not going to be, it's not like, I'm not being Paxman. I won't be quite as rude as that. I won't interrupt you. So, the way this is, if you're watching, thank you very much indeed. If you're not watching, of course, you wouldn't know this because you wouldn't have heard me say that. We're going to interview all the candidates one by one. And there's 9. We have 9 candidates. There are, of course, 11 people standing for election. One person dropped out during the week, which is a shame, of course. And we are speaking to 9 of the 11 candidates. Tim Hillier can't join us today due to work commitments. And Matthew Breach can't join us. He's just recovering from quite major surgery. So good luck, Matt. Hope you feel better soon. And you'll hear from both those candidates in the fullness of time, but not today. So how we're working this is we're having 2 sessions, one from 11 o'clock to 1 o'clock, and then from 2 to about probably 3:40. Depends how much people say, of course. And if you want to ask questions, you have the chance to ask questions. The full schedule, by the way, is available on 9yearspodcast.org. That's, of course, 9yrspodcast.org. And questions can be sent in live using the YouTube comment section. But make sure when you send a question in, you include your Don's Trust membership number, otherwise we can't ask your question. Anyway, so enough of that. Now what Nick has done is produce a very, very nice paperwork for us to look at and get notes from, but he's included the anagrams of everyone's name, just to lighten the mood. So, Rob, presuming you are Robert.
I am.
You are. Nick hasn't actually gone for the full name. He's only gone for Rob. So, Rob Crane, Bear Corn.
Well, I can live with that.
There's far worse than this coming up, so you've got away likely. So let's get on with this then, because you don't want to hear too much from me. So this is Rob Crane, as we've just discussed already. Rob, what is your job? What do you do during the day?
I'm self-employed. I work in publishing. Originally, I trained as a journalist. I went to university up in Sheffield. So my background is very much kind of in communications and stuff like that.
Excellent.
I trained as a print journalist. I used to kind of had to do a few modules on kind of radio and TV and stuff like that. But my focus is mainly on print, so this is a new experience for me today, really. Good.
Well, I've managed to combine not being very good at print journalism, but not being very good at broadcast journalism, and it's lasted me for 30 years, so you'll be fine. So let's ask the first of the important questions. How long have you been a Don's fan?
I became a fan in mid-80s. My dad used to go and watch Crystal Palace, boo hiss. He used to get free tickets to go down there and watch them. And then one day Wimbledon came along and won 5-0. And my dad had a kind of revelation that actually
February 85.
It was indeed. My dad had a revelation that watching football could actually be entertaining and fun. And he started slowly drifting over to watch Wimbledon, and predictably I kind of followed in his footsteps.
Yeah. Was that a Paul Fishenden hat-trick? Someone watching one of that. Fishenden hat-trick, Fishenden 3, Evans 2, is that right?
I was only 10 at the time, so I can't quite remember, but about that, yeah.
Please, viewers, do write in and tell us that. I think that's the case. So where do you watch home games from?
I stand on the Kenflow end. When I watched at Plough Lane, I used to stand on the West Bank, down at the corner by one of the floodlights, and then at Sellers Park, I was on the Homestead Road end. So very much behind the goal man.
Yeah. So were you moved for those Dutch kids the other week?
I was just alongside them.
So
we were able to hear their enthusiastic chanting that day.
They were very keen, weren't they? I'm looking forward to them coming back. Okay, right, let's get to the serious questions. So all candidates have produced a manifesto in which they kind of discuss what they bring to the table. I hate that phrase, table, but we actually are at a table, aren't we? So let's say we're at a table. So your manifesto focused very heavily on communications, as we just discussed. Well, that's your background. So what practical steps would you take to improve communications between the Don's Trust board and the Don's Trust members?
I think it has to be almost a kind of change in ethos as much as anything else. Previously, I volunteered to help the Secretariat of the Trust Board, helping out on the communications side. And I found that a fairly kind of frustrating role to do, actually, because I would only ever hear half the conversation that the Trust Board were having. And very often I thought that they should have been communicating much more what they were talking about with the membership. So, for example, if a query came in via Twitter, I was running the Twitter account at the time, and I would have to go through the board to get a response. I couldn't respond immediately. Very much, Twitter should be an instantaneous kind of forum to get responses, but having to go through the board to get an official response very much kind of slowed things down. So I've always felt that it would be beneficial to have somebody with a communications background on the board to kind of promote that kind of outlook all the time. People on the board, they have different backgrounds and so on, and that's brilliant. It's good to have a good, diverse background. But I feel they could benefit from having somebody with a communications background there, just to kind of promote that ethos. More practically, it has to be kind of every channel. I mean, channels are kind of media term, but basically we mean Twitter, program, website. Basically pumping out as much information as you can, using every medium you can, just to try and engage as many people as you can all the time.
Do you think that's a problem, and I say problem in the loosest sense of the word, of coming from where we've come from? We haven't forming 16 years ago as a combined counties club to getting to the point where we're a football league club within 9 years. Is it a case where, in some ways, that the club has moved almost too quickly for its own good, in the sense of, great, the volunteers are fantastic, but is it possible to run a League One football club when you're competing against teams like Sunderland over 45,000 stadium, when we have a tenth of that, and we're volunteer run and fan owned?
Well, that's obviously the big problem we do face. You hear about the physical infrastructure at the club, for example, is very constrained. You don't have enough room in the office to fit everyone in who you might want to, and that's before you even think about whether you have a budget to pay them. We have a history of using volunteers to, fulfil unfulfilled roles, to bring people in, use their expertise, and that's something I think we could do much more on the communication front as well, and throughout the whole club. I think perhaps to some extent we've drifted away from that, so maybe we don't promote our volunteers enough and kind of give them credit for what they do. And to some extent it's just a question of saying thank you to encourage people to keep on doing it. There's a huge pool of people out there, volunteers we can tap into. People like you guys who are doing this on a Saturday, giving up your Saturday to do this, is fantastic. So thank you for doing it. And it's the sort of thing we could do more of, I think.
Yeah, sure. So with your communication background in mind, and obviously that's where I come from too, are you aware of how the role of the supporters liaison officer works? And do you think this position should be possibly more closely aligned with the Don's Trust Board and how that works?
Yeah, I've heard a bit of discussion about this on Facebook recently. A few fans have been talking about it. So the club has a supporter liaison officer who is David Charles, the operations director, and he's possibly one of the busiest people at the club, I think. He has so many hats he has to wear at different times. And whether it would be beneficial to kind of tease out that role and have it as somebody actually independent of both the club and the trust, maybe, so that people can go to the supporter and liaison officer and actually get their issues resolved. I think to some extent at the moment there's a bit of a blurred line between whether something falls under the club or the trust. In theory the trust does the strategy stuff and the club does the operational stuff. Sometimes that line kind of blurs a little bit, and I think people sometimes aren't sure where they should go if they have an issue that they need resolving. So to have one designated person who can act as a kind of a supporter champion, if you like, you can go to them with any issue you have and they can take it up on your behalf and see it through to resolution. I think that'd be a very beneficial thing, and hopefully it might free up David Charles a bit as well.
That's the other point, isn't it? Where David has his full-time job with the club, to be supporter liaison as well. Obviously, when we've produced the podcast for the last for Facebook Live, for example, when we record at other grounds, we have to ask permission to film. They've always been very nice with us, but there's a supporters liaison person. And even at clubs like Doncaster, with respect to them, they're not a huge club. They have someone who does that as their job. This other guy that we spoke to at Doncaster is also one of the youth, secretary for one of the youth sides. But he's not. He doesn't have a role as big as David's role. So is that the point where we've grown to the point where we have this position of two really important positions served by one person?
Yeah, I think it's a perfect illustration of that, and I think it's probably happening throughout the backroom of the club. People have got multiple roles they need to carry out, and that's a reflection of where we are, but it's possibly not the most productive way of doing things. And not only that, but also we have a duty of care to employees as well. If we're stressing them out because we're giving them too much work to do, that's probably something we need to think about as well.
Sure. So, in your manifesto, you promise to deliver better engagement. So what do you think it is that members of the Don's Trust, they deem it important enough to sign up and become a member of the Trust, why do you think they're disengaged with it?
I think, again, it comes down to partly the blurring of boundaries between the Trust and the club. And I think people can perceive them as being the same entity, and in reality they're different sides of the same coin, probably.
Yeah.
So if the people don't feel engaged with and communicated with, if they don't feel that their opinions are being asked and they're being talked to and being given the opportunity to question, then that can have a very negative influence. We obviously, in the Trust, we have regular meetings down here at the club. They have an audience which is fairly small with compared with the overall membership numbers. Whether the demographics of the people who come to those meetings is actually reflective of the whole membership, almost certainly not. So I think, again, it's about having different ways of engaging with people, different channels. The other week, the Trust had a meeting in a pub in Wimbledon, which is very informal, and I actually thought that worked very well. It gave people a chance to chat. It didn't have a formal agenda. It was more kind of an exchanging of views. So credit to the current board for trying that, and I thought it worked very well. So trying different things, different ways of engaging with people, particularly people on the other side of the world who obviously may still be a Trust member and still care about the club desperately. That's a good way of involving them, maybe online. Things like this broadcast again, you should look at that.
So we have a question from a Don's Trust member.
Great.
And it's Stuart Lartman. Thanks for the question, Stuart. His question is quite long, so I'll read it slowly because it's a complicated one, but it's a very good question.
Okay.
He says, with New Plough Lane in mind, I know several people will get upset by calling it New Plough Lane, but he has got a lowercase n. So he's not calling the ground New Plough Lane. Don't worry, viewers. It's a lowercase n, and that's fair. So I'm going to call it the New Plough Lane around the corner. We need to have strong brand positioning. Our brand must extend way beyond the badge. We need a brand and a communication strategy in place, both physical and digital, for the next 3 to 5 years. One that will provide solid foundations on which to build. Currently, our brand is vanilla and passive, he says. It lacks direction and personality. So what tactical and strategic approach would you suggest that the FCB take to address this?
Wow, that's a big topic to address.
Isn't it? So we're going to start with the big
question.
question.
Stuart.
It's a good question.
No, it's a very good one. A while back there was talk about the club employing a marketing and communications director. It was kind of mentioned in a bit of paperwork a couple of years ago, and it was suggested that that might happen when we got planning permission from the new stadium. That hasn't happened for some reason. I'm not sure why. I'd like to find out why and see whether we can revive it. We now have a marketing manager in place, and I think already, without knowing specifically what they've been up to, the club's output in terms of branding you can see it's improving. Things like the emails which are coming out from the club every week are improved in content and the look and feel of them. In general, a more general point, I think we really should shout about who we are. The fact that we're such a distinctive club. Sometimes it feels like we're actually a bit passive about shouting about that, and we could do more about that, I think. And also, in terms of what we actually do, we've got the foundation out there who are doing a lot of work in the community. We don't really talk about that apart from a page in the programme, which focuses more on football courses that kids can go on, which is fantastic. But we're probably doing a whole load of community work which we don't really mention. So I think having somebody in place who could look at the club, look at the Trust, look at the foundation, look at the ladies and girls as well, and really have a kind of an oversight of the whole club entity and draw up a strategy for promoting that as kind of one voice. I think that'd be really, really beneficial.
So if you look at Haringey Borough last night, they are a community club, aren't they? They are Haringey's club. Do you think there's some kind of thing that we maybe as a club we haven't done, that we're not seen as Wimbledon's football club, and maybe we never have been? As going back to the days when we both started going in the 70s and 80s. Was Wimbledon Football Club ever Wimbledon's football club? Well, Haringey is definitely its.
Yeah, we've got a geographical challenge here, in terms of we are surrounded by a lot of Chelsea fans and even fans of Arsenal and people like that. But that's not unique. Like you say, Haringey is surrounded by Tottenham fans and so on and so forth. The physical location probably has something to do with it. If we were right back in the heart, we could do a lot more. But I actually think we're probably better now. I didn't live in Wimbledon back in the Plough Lane days. I lived in South East London. It's only since I moved to South West London in about 2002, coincidentally, that I've been living in the community. And it always makes me proud that you do actually see quite a large number of Wimbledon golden stickers and so on in cars. So there's more we can do to promote ourselves as well. I think being in the heart of the community will help in terms of being accessible for people to come along and watch matches and so on. And it's certainly something we can promote ourselves more as, being a local, friendly community club, doing good work in the community as well.
Excellent. So the move back to Plough Lane surely will help that, because now we're at Kingston. We're not Wimbledon's team in that sense.
Yeah, I mean, you know, just coming down here today, you know, I hop on the bus to come down here. It takes 45 minutes, an hour. You know, that's on a Saturday morning.
Yeah.
On a match day, you know, it takes much longer. So we are a little bit dislocated, and obviously the community, the foundation is doing a lot of work in the community already. But you know, we could. I imagine when we get the new stadium, hopefully the foundation will have improved facilities at the stadium, and they can do a lot more work from that as well.
Yeah, excellent. Right, well, we have 2 live questions from YouTube viewers. Stuart Deacons is also with us. I forgot to introduce you. George Jones is also here. Mark Hendricks is the magician behind this broadcast, making it all work. He's making it work. Mark has plugged things in and switched things on, so thank you, Mark. So, Stu, we're down to one question. Okay, because it's the 2 questions are the same, essentially. So, Stuart, would you like to read the question out, and then I can plug Rob with it?
Yeah, and thank you for the kind introduction. I'm not behind the camera because that's probably better for that. We have a question from, we're just going to try and get the name confirmed, but it's a Rafa's Fun. Just a very much question, Rob. I feel we do not publicise ourselves. And we are a special club, but we don't publicise ourselves enough.
Yeah, I think I'd go along with that, really. I think we hide what we do pretty much.
Under a bushel.
I was going to say that, yeah.
Wait,
Thank you for filling in for me.
I could sense it was coming.
It's hard to kind of immediately, on the spur of the moment, come up with a way of promoting ourselves more. But on the website, for example, you would struggle to find any reference on the club website to the fact that we're fan-owned. There's no section about that which explains our structure or anything like that. We could use avenues like that to really shout about who we are.
Yeah.
We could even get involved in the supporter movement a lot more and be much more active in that. Going back to the website, you know, there's got to be potential for having a tab at the top which explains to people who we are, how we're structured. Because even within the fan base, there's, I think, a degree of confusion about who does what and how we're structured.
Definitely.
So I think that would be beneficial, not just for promoting who we are and what we do, but not just doing that to the wider audience, but doing it to our own fan base as well.
Sure. Excellent. Good answer. Thank you, Rob. Now, this is the fun bit. Because we were, as a football club, originally formed in 1889, and the anniversary was just last week. So we have some questions for you, rapid-fire questions, which should take 89 seconds, but we have a slight delay. So we're pressing buttons. I'm watching Mark at work. Is a thing. I wish you could see this, everyone.
When I say go, you go.
Okay, I'll be going. Okay, ready? Are you set? Is your mind in really, really rapid mode? Okay, so tea or coffee?
Tea.
Crime or science fiction?
Oh, crime.
Monday Night Football or Match of the Day?
Match of the day.
Pie or panini?
Oh, pie, definitely. What type of pie, though?
That's a sub-question. There was no sub-questions. I'm doing the questions.
Sorry.
Sorry. Well, it depends if it's the panini they sell at the ground, doesn't it? Because they're very nice, but, you know, whatever. Okay.
Rapid fire.
Yeah, rapid fire. So £25 a year to be a Don's Trust member is too expensive, yes or no?
For some people, yes.
Okay. Would you rather eat an entire jar of mayonnaise or a whole tub of butter?
Oh, good grief. Mayonnaise, I think.
Mayonnaise, okay. Tom Hanks, Leonardo DiCaprio?
Leonardo DiCaprio.
Okay. Too hot or too cold? I think that's at temperature, not your own body.
Chilly, so too cold.
Okay. Would you rather have an elephant's trunk or a giraffe's neck?
A giraffe's neck.
Okay. Should selfie sticks be banned, yes or no?
Definitely yes.
Excellent, good answer. Are the Harry Potter books overrated, yes or no?
Yes, because I've never read one.
Good. Walk in the rain without an umbrella or walk in the snow without a coat?
Walk in the rain without an umbrella. I lived in Sheffield.
Fair point, yeah. Onesies, yes or no?
No.
Okay. Would relegation to League Two be a disaster or a chance to rebuild the club?
Well, it'd be a chance to rebuild.
Okay, finally, as a good positive spin, Rob, this is the last question. when you're making tea, bag first, milk first.
Oh, I know this is the crucial one.
It is.
Bag first.
Excellent. That's the correct answer. So, Rob Crane, thank you very much indeed for your time. Good luck, sir, and hope this has made people vote. If you're not sure who to vote for, this is what we are doing this for. You can watch these videos, watch them live, watch the candidates under a bit of pressure, and that will hopefully make your mind up and you know who to vote for. So, Rob, thank you. Next up, shortly at 11:25, in just 2.5 minutes' time, Nick will be grilling James McDonald. Thank you.